Mhm.
Nice to see you.
You bet.
Does anyone have the discussion prompt?
I do have it. Hold on.
My browser closed on me.
Okay, this week's lectures and readings focused public leadership and leadership in a crisis. Please discuss ways that you believe organizations can prepare leaders at all levels to respond in a crisis. Consider in this discussion the communication issues faced by BP in the spill and the failures of crisis communication.
I thought this one, I mean, it was really interesting, but it was like, I don't know if you guys already did the discussion posts for this week, but for me, it was really hard to like, I could think of potential crises that could affect my organization for sure, but it was hard to think of like specific ways to prevent them or to prepare. I don't know. For me, it was hard.
I feel like it's hard to prepare for a crisis, like, because you just never know like what it's going to be. Like, you could prepare everybody and be like, oh, like, our company, like, we're going to take a hit because of this, and then like honestly it's going to go the other way and you're like, we didn't prepare for this.
So I have a personal for my company discussion for this, because I sit on the SHE board, which is Safety, Health, and Environment at my company. And we meet once every 2 weeks to discuss, myriad of agendas, but to talk about the risks and if there were employee suggestions of near misses or, someone did have an incident at work. And then, so we're kind of forward thinking about it, where we're not going to wait for the crisis to happen. We're going to look around. So every month, every member of the SHE board has to do an audit of a different department within the company. So I go downstairs to production and I go, hard body armor area. And I have my checklist and I go through it all. And I, if there's a cabinet open that has flammable materials in it, you have to mark all these things down. And then you, it's just as simple as, open containers of just drinks on their tables where it could spill onto a tool. And then you have to submit that to that department's manager and they have to do a corrective action for it. So once a month, we're continually auditing each other's departments and saying, here it is, you sit in your own department and you don't notice things that are happening. So in the 2 or 3 years that our SHE director has been with our facility, it's gotten to the point where everyone is so now aware of safety factors and what they can be doing in their departments that over 2 years' time, we've had one reportable incident. And that was only because an employee unfortunately tripped and fell and she had to go to the dentist for some teeth work. So it wasn't that we had, a product out that shouldn't have been there. It was just an unfortunate incident. And that's really huge because we work in an environment that people lose fingers and limbs and sometimes their lives if they aren't, doing the right thing. So that's just an example of a director who's very forward thinking and mitigating what could happen, because all of these things could happen at any time. It's just freak accidents. But the more you get people thinking about safety at all times, you can go 2 years without having someone's life lost.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Because I work at Starbucks too, and like we do like a lot of audits of ourselves. But like, I think it's the way like I look at it is like the outward like crisis too. Like, because I remember a couple years ago, whenever they like brought out this new cup, and everybody got like so offended by it and like so upset, and it's like the outward crisis communication of being like, okay, so like how do we market the company? Like how do we do this? How do we like public relation involved? Like I feel like it's so hard when you're like releasing a new product to be like, so how's like the consumer gonna take it? Because it could go but it could go negatively.
But you have this team that's created this thing and they stand behind it. So how do you positively stand behind something and twist it in a way that it's no longer negative? That's huge. And I think Starbucks did a really good job of that.
I think they did too, because I briefly like remember what was said, but then you're also like, but this is what our company stands for. But like, I also get like where you're coming from, but like also,
like in that case, obviously Starbucks is still Starbucks, and
Right.
doing,
You're like, we're not going to
like,
lose.
I can imagine. I don't know. I wonder if you know this. Like, did it like take a strong hit in sales around that time, or like?
Honestly, I don't think it did, because I was like reading an article today of like other companies like Snapchat. Like today, Kylie Jenner like posted something on Twitter of like, does anybody else open their Snapchat anymore? And like their stock market went down within like 5 hours of her saying that.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, okay, like now what's this company gonna do? Because like now somebody said this, we're taking the hit for this.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy how little things can cause this crisis.
But I feel like even internal auditing and speculation, like you were saying, Liz, is helpful in a way to present even like even outward criticism and press things. Like for one example that came to mind, I don't know if you guys, it was an example that happened in Mexico. I don't think that this it's a company called Mascota, which is basically a like Petco in Mexico. Okay. And they were like the huge pet. Now they do have Petco in Mexico, but at the time they didn't, and they were like the leading, pet store, pet products place. And this video came out of one of their employees just like horribly mistreating an animal that they had for sale there, a few dogs or something. And of course, that video went viral, and that literally just completely discredited the company. Like I think they're probably bankrupt. They do have some stores, but like a few months later, half of the location stores closed. Like it was crazy. And so in that case, like it's an outward it's a public thing, but at the same time, like if they had more quality control of the people who were working there and how everything was going in all of their stores, then that would have never happened. So like that's one way, to prevent those kind of things.
Well, that's kind of reminiscent of the PetSmart just last week or so, that they had a video of a groomer kind of manhandling the Shih Tzu, and now the groomer has obviously been fired, but they have to do that post-crisis. No, this isn't how we handle, and they said we're going to put more rules and regulations in place for our groomers. So,
oh my goodness,
crazy. Yeah,
I feel like it kind of does come down to like with incidents like that of just being more thorough, like in the hiring development or like the training development of being like, this is what our company stands for. Like, you got to get behind this.
Right. And probably trying not to hire in a moment of we just need people, being forward about your planning of where your company's going. Because when you just need people, you don't hire the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. And then there were other ones that were like prepare. I guess like, well, the prompt question talks about like how you can prepare leaders at all levels how to respond. That's another interesting one. Like one thing is how the whole organization responds or prepares, but the other is like how each individual responds to that.
And the someone has to act as a spokesperson, so you want to make sure that if that's your CEO, that's the right person to be in front. If that's your PR person, because you want to come across as sympathetic, so the public still likes you. Which obviously we saw in real life and in the lectures that VP and that Spill did not come across sympathetic whatsoever.
I feel like that's always hard too, because it's like, you might not always like act emotional, but like you feel it on the inside. But when you're reading something, like you're talking to the public, you're like, I have to have this face, but then there's like so many factors that go into that.
Well, I thought it was interesting the part too where I was talking about how people really judge leaders based on how they handle the dead. So did you guys read that part of,
I don't think I've gotten to that yet, because I feel like that really would have stood out.
Yeah, it would. So, but it was interesting in the, and I mean, I can relate to this more in my, my production kind of office situation where if a leader doesn't take every single death within their facility seriously, like down to the janitor, the janitor passes and there's not a memo sent out about that because it wasn't the most important person there, then it gets really judged by the public, by the company. Their perception of leadership is now, well, you didn't care about this little peon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like for me, I've never really worked yet in a large organization. So obviously, like where I work, we're like a really small agency and we're super tight knit. So like for me, it's like if anyone died, that would be like huge, like I can't, it's hard for me to, it's hard for me to relate, but like I can imagine in huge corporations where, and there are lots of different offices and headquarters and all that stuff. It is something that you have to be really careful about.
Yeah, treating everyone like they were a vital part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like being a leader or CEO in those, and like not only for being a leader and for keeping everything together within the organization, but preparing for any kind of crisis in a large organization is obviously a way bigger job and way harder. But I guess it also gets like you guys, like your company has a very structured way of, preparing, which is really cool. And I guess that's what you have to do, especially if you have a large company. But I would say any company should do that. Like I started thinking about how we could apply things like that.
Yeah. And those kind of things for a lot of companies, I know for mine included, only come about because there have been accidents and mistakes and things that were very detrimental to the company, and so we wanted to stop putting out fires. We wanted to get in front of the fire kind of thing. But it doesn't happen just because nothing happened in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always the worst. Like you're always prepared once something has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lessons learned, that's best practices, but when it involves possibly lives we had a gas leak at one of our facilities in Minnesota today. So they had to evacuate, because just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have those situations in place and
to like help prepare for the future.
Right. Cool. Well, I think we started at, I think we've for like 13 minutes or so. So
cool. Well, this is our last one, guys.
That's crazy.
I know.
Just to, I'm gonna send in the database assignment tonight. Okay. So I'll let you guys know once I turn it in.
And that's just one person has to send it, right?
Yeah. Just one.
Cool. Perfect. Well, my computer is like about to die. Perfect
timing.
Hi guys. Thanks for a great term.
Thanks for everything.
Semester.
You too.
Bye.